Good morning and welcome to today's show, A Money Truth Moments, with our very own Money Whisperer, Judy Copenbarger. How are you, Judy?
I am fantastic. Good to see you, Carlos. It's just an amazing day. It's been a fantastic week. I feel good. Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Awesome. And today is a very special show, folks. So if you're just joining us for the first time, welcome. If you're not following Judy, please do so at judycopenbarger.com. We will talk about our website. We will talk about more of our resources available on our website a little bit later on in the show. But today, what makes our show special is that we're actually going to be answering some of our audience questions. We have a great audience. We have great folks that always tune in, always want to learn more. I do have to share this funny moment with you too that I've heard from one of our listeners is that originally they started tuning in just to kind of see what was going on, just curious while we were live, what we were talking about, and then little by little they realized that wow, I can utilize a lot of this in what I'm doing now in life. But more importantly, and here's the funny part, apparently their spouse or significant other was actually the one that handles all of the finances, and they've always felt kind of left out because they didn't know much. So they started utilizing a lot of the concepts and things that you share with them, and all of a sudden it was like, wait, how'd you get so smart? You know what I mean? Or how do you know about this? Or how do you know about that? So
I
they're
love it.
utilizing the education of the show to be able to have a better communication, family harmony that we talked about in their marriage, which is great. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, like a common language, that they
Yeah,
didn't have before. I love that. I love that. Thanks for sharing
yeah,
that. It's great.
you got it. And I want folks to also know that this is you're not doing this just for a hobby. You're not doing this just for fun, which actually leads me to our very first question, right? And it's a question that's always come up. I'm sure you've heard it over your entire career. But one of our audience asked again, what makes you different than other financial experts? And I want folks to know exactly who you are.
Well, I'm the only one of me. And I don't know if that's the gift of the world or what. But we're all unique and we all have unique experiences and backgrounds. But I think you're asking a professional question. So if someone's looking for a financial advisor or a financial consultant or a financial planner, all these words we use interchangeably. But some are legal, like terms of art, some are not. So anyone can be a financial consultant. Anyone can be a financial advisor, but there are credentials that go along with some of these titles beyond those. So a financial planner, you could say you're a financial planner, excuse me, easy for you to say, right? You can be a financial planner, but to be a certified financial planner, there's actually a credential to that. You have to be degreed, you have to have gone to college. And then beyond that, there's a year or so, maybe a couple of years of learning. And there are tests and credentials that have to be kept up, CE or continuing education that has to happen. You have to kind of know your stuff. So if someone really wants to do some planning, I think that would be a good place to start. It doesn't mean that there are non CFPs. There's not a non CFP that can't do a great job, but that would be one way to kind of, you know, test the wind to make sure that they at least have the head knowledge and the experience to be able to take care of you. So that's one thing. Another thing is you've got people that are wealth managers, people that will, sell you investments or life insurance or investment products, help you make your money grow. Usually that's the sales force. And that's not a bad thing. It's just something that people don't know unless you're in the industry. And so their job are sales representatives to sell for certain companies, whatever the products are. So that brings with it a natural conflict of interest. And so you just want to be aware that that's there. And I think it's always good to vet the people that are serving you, maybe get referrals, check the backgrounds of the people that are serving you and make sure that they should be doing what they're doing and that they're really putting your interest first. And I think one more thing to be just careful to know is there are fiduciaries out there, professional fiduciaries. And a professional fiduciary has to, by law, do the right thing for you and prove it in writing under audit. So they can't just sell you something that's good for them, like it's a good commission for them, but maybe not so good for you and your family. They have to actually prove why it's the best advice for you and why they're giving that advice. So those are some things that you can look for if you're seeking out someone to help you with your finances. Um, conveniently, I have those credentials and others. I have a background in law, so I have a law degree and I have an MBA, so a background in business. When I was in law school, I did some extra work, so I got an emphasis in taxation. So that's not preparing tax returns, that's planning for tax events or against tax events. And so that was something that I did along in law school with my husband years ago. And so I've been serving people in that capacity. I have all the securities licenses that you'd ever want, insurance license, all that background. But I've used that to pull together all of these parts of finance to be able to be holistic in my approach with people. And so I can help people navigate, things you want to avoid, like extra fees and taxes and commissions, and just pay a flat fee and just get the advice you need to make your family go. So, long answer, but to answer your question, why am I different? There are very few people that work on a fee basis, and there are more people than work on a fee basis that are actual CFPs. But among them, you just want to be careful that you're shopping for ones that are not just gathering assets, like trying to get money under management and sell that service or that product, but actually serve you fully. Hope I
Excellent.
answered your question.
No, you absolutely did. But I actually want to take it a step further too, because I think it's important. We've talked about this before on the show. And I think also what makes you different is why you're doing what you do. And I also want folks to also know that you're not in this to collect as many clients as you can, to make as much money as you can. It's never been about that with you. And I think it would be great for you to remind folks why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, we had 5 children and we educated them all. And for many years, it was about the money. We needed to make a living and pay tuition and keep, a roof over our heads. It's not about that anymore. It's about legacy. So the clients I have, I call ideal clients. I have a very small community of clients now, and I serve them fully. And we're doing life together. It's people that when we have a meeting coming up and I see their name on the calendar, I get so excited because I get to see them and be in the front row and help them achieve their goals and live out their dreams and their gifting goals and all those things that are so important to them, just like us. So I still am working in that capacity, but I'm not out trying to get, 200 new clients a year to gather assets and sell them insurance, right? Which is kind of the typical in the industry. But really for me now, it's the point in life where it's about legacy. It's about putting out into the world formats like this, formats like podcasts and radio and, the different venues that we're using to get the word out, to help people understand the basic primer level financial, to become financially literate, just what you need to know about the bears and the bulls and a mutual fund and a stock and a different life insurance, a whole life insurance policy or universal or just term and long-term insurance, whether you should do that or not. Should you have a will? Should you have a trust? Should you have both or neither? Things like that, helping business owners figure out what to do with succession. And all those years they put into this business that's just flourished. What are they going to do now? Is a family member going to take it over? Are they going to sell it as shares out to their staff who help build the business? So things like that, I just love to help people and families and ministries and businesses thrive. But beyond that, just really leave their legacy as well. So I guess my legacy is kind of becoming the legacy of a lot of others. But that's why I'm here. That's why I'm spending the time to put the word out. The educational programs I have online and on YouTube, those are all there. So people don't have to become a client, but they can learn what they need to know to do better.
And thanks. And also, speaking of that, we're going to be talking about Judy's website a little bit later and all the additional resources that are available for you guys. Again, good morning, folks. We are here at Money Truth Moments talking with Judy, actually answering questions from our audience. So today's a very special show. So make sure you catch the beginning of it. Make sure you share it out also with your friends and family also. So I love the fact that people, again, are reminded of your background and why you're sharing all of this wisdom. There's also, one of the questions also came from a recently divorced parent. And the question was, as a recently divorced parent, they haven't really planned properly. This was unexpected. And so they have kids, and they're at a loss. They don't know which direction, where do they begin. It's obviously going through a divorce is chaos, let alone having to be the sole parent taking care of your kids too. So their question is again, where do I begin? What do I do? Help.
Well, the first thing is not financial. It's just make sure you're taking care of yourself, because that's a lot of transition in anyone's life. And then this burden, and then you've got the stress and all the, what you've been through emotionally and all of that. So, wow, that's a lot. I'm sorry that you're going through that, first of all. But I think make sure you take care of yourself, and then you can look at finance. What do we need to do financially? So there are always like two parts of our financial life happening at the same time. Just like a soccer game or a football game, there's offensive and there's defensive parts of the game, right? And if you leave one out, you're going to lose the game. So offensively, things that you would do that are like for growth, you want to make sure that you're optimizing. If you're working and there's something you can do at work, like a retirement program, even if you have to start small, $50 a month or $50 a paycheck, $100, whatever you can do something. There's something engaging, there's something in our mindset that happens when we're making progress, even if it's a little bit. Same thing with savings. You're like, well, it's tight. Our expenses have all changed, and I have burdens I didn't have before, but you can save something. And again, if it's $25 a month, $50 a month, and it really is truly savings, whether it's in the jar, the cookie jar, or if it's in your desk drawer or wherever it is, until you have enough to, haul down to the bank or credit union and put it in, save something. Everyone can save something, even if it's a tiny bit. And maybe it's several hundred or several thousand that you can, and that's even better. But do something to pay yourself every month, and do something to pay your future every month. So those are a couple of things that you can do for the growth part, the offensive part. Now, defensively, you want to make sure you're protecting what you're accumulating, right? So make sure that you're, first of all, not paying too much in tax. And there's several things that you can do there. But you want to protect from extra fees you don't need. You want to protect from extra, commissions or costs that you don't need. And so start trimming down. And it might be as simple as looking at your cable bill. And am I paying too much for some of the channels that maybe we could do without for a while? Can we turn off the lights a little more, turn off the water, use a little less water? Those little things, conservation, which is always good to think about. But maybe there are other things in our lifestyle that we can do about. Maybe instead of eating out so many times a month, we can start on Sunday afternoon or Saturday evening, start preparing our meals. And you can put meals in the freezer, and then instead of going out, you've got them there, or you put them in the crock pot. Remember the crock pot back from the 70s? They still work. Toaster ovens still work. I mean, there's some things that we can do for food prep that for most people, that's one of the biggest expenses other than housing is food and entertainment. So just find ways that you can cut down. That's a really good defensive play. Things that you can do without, maybe there are things that you can sell. Stuff lying around the garage, stuff lying around the closets. You clean out a closet, it's like, oh, I didn't know I had that from 20 years ago. Somebody else is probably looking for it, believe it or not. Our trash is other people's treasures. So true.
Mhm.
So you can go on eBay or have a yard sale or something, put that out, get extra money in, and clean out your house at the same time. Hopefully those are some hints that might help you a little bit.
No, and I appreciate you taking the time to do that also. So we talked about this right now too, but I also have kind of falls in the same category somewhat of the follow-up question that I have. And this I think comes from somebody young, obviously, but it says they're in school and working. What are some things that they should be looking to do as I'm getting ready for the real world?
Great question. Similar offense and defense, right? So you should be saving money, even if you're working part-time and it feels so tight. Students talk about the starving student
Mhm.
mode. You're eating top ramen. Not all students do, but a lot of us, when we're in school, that's where the money and the time and the effort goes. And for a short time. But you could be saving something. Another thing that you could be doing is thinking about your income sources for the future. So it doesn't have to be one job. A lot of times students in school are thinking, I'm doing this to get the dream job. I'll go to the job fair and get that job, and I'll do that for the next 40 years. Young people don't just keep one job. Our parents did, right? And our grandparents did, a lot of them. They had one career, one job, and they were there a long time. It's
Mhm.
fewer and fewer folks that are doing that. People will move and they'll find a better deal and they'll move and they'll find a better deal and they'll move, or they'll make their own business, which I'm all for entrepreneurial spirit. So think about not just the job that you'd like to get, but the lifestyle that you'd like to have. Maybe you have a job for a little while, but you have a side hustle, or you turn that into some kind of a business that gives you freedom as you move forward. Or maybe it's a segue to a totally different industry. But I encourage young people, students, I was recently a student and not necessarily a young person. But as you're thinking about what do I want to do next, this tool of education is going to empower me. It's going to give me something to open doors for me. What doors do I want open? And when I walk through those doors, what's going to be there? What kind of work do I want to be doing? What kind of hours do I want to be keeping? Do I want to travel or not? Do I want to commute or not? Do I want to involve my family or not? What kind of people do I want in my life? If I'm working with customers or clients or patients, what are my ideal communities going to look like? So if you think about the income in mind of what you're looking to do, instead of just taking the first job or the job, the company that, the big company that everybody's going to go, ooh, you work there. It's not always that glamorous. It's not always that fun.
True.
So instead of being like reactive to what's available, create what you want to have available. That's what I would say to a student.
Awesome. And folks, again, thank you for joining us this morning. We're here at Money Truth Moments with Judy, always sharing her wisdom. We've definitely talked about things that makes her different for sure. She has shared a lot about her legacy and her why she's doing what she's doing now too. And we've also discussed, unfortunately, the sad part when people get divorced and they don't have a plan, or all of a sudden this just happened, and how do we get through it, right? So we just covered some of that, and also for our working kids, right? Those that are going to college, some of them struggling, trying to manage between a job, paying for school, and looking ahead in the future. But I think now it's a good time to also talk about judycopenbarger.com. Tell us about your website. Share with folks what's available there, what resources are at their disposal, basically.
Yeah, good stuff. It's all good stuff. So it's not very original name, but judycopenbarger.com. There's a lot of really neat things on that website. There's some articles that can help you. There's some videos that can help you. Videos on how to, like how things work and how to do money at your house for your family. There's also access there to the Money, Truth, and Life online mastery program. And that's a course that we created years ago that has all 5 pillars of finance featured there. So you've got taxation, you've got the legal, like wills, trust, corporations, entities, things like that. You've got insurances, investments, qualified programs, so 401ks, 403bs, pensions, deferred comp packages, how all these things work, what the tools are, basically, and then how do I use them? Like, what would be the best for me? And you'll end up with not only the information of what it is and how it works, which you could probably take a class and figure that out, but the relevant part I think is missing from most education, that financial education, the relevant part. So, well, what do I do with that information? How is that going to help me at my house? So our books, the content on the Money, Truth, and Life online mastery program is all there with real stories from real people that I either myself or our family or clients over the years. There's probably 20, 30 stories there of real clients doing it right, things they did right that really served them well, and mistakes that they made or bad advice that they got and how it might have really cost them. And so you can learn from other people's mistakes. It's interesting, over the years, people have contacted me with, oh my goodness, I almost did that. And then I saw your online program or I read the book, and it's like, oh, thank goodness I didn't go down that path because of what you said. And it was really the wrong path for us. And you saved us, right? So
Mhm.
again, going back to legacy, that's the kind of feedback I love getting. And I know I'll never hear from many people, that have this information, but I know I'm putting it out there with the right heart, that it's going to help a lot of people and maybe their kids and their neighbors and their friends. And that's what it's all about for me. But there's a lot of information right there on judycopenbarger.com. Also, you can go on YouTube, just put my name in, and there's lots and lots of videos there on every topic, on any area of finance, and interest, and different kinds of trust. I mean, so many things that you can learn there.
Excellent. And again, folks, if you're just joining us, thank you for being here. Make sure that you do follow Judy at judycopenbarger.com. All of our social media is on there as well too. So make sure you're following her for great advice, great tips, and always her sharing her wisdom. So let's get back to our questions from our audience. We were talking a little bit about school and all of that. So one of a parent actually wrote in and said, when is the right time to start teaching our family about money? And I'm not sure if they mean if they have little ones. I'm not sure if they're, middle school kids, high school kids, or whatever. But I think as a whole, when is a good time to start talking about money with family?
Yeah, right now. Right now.
Like do it now, right?
I don't care what age they are. Yeah, you can't start too early. Even when they're little tots and they're sitting in the cart at the grocery store, they're sitting in that little seat, where you put the milk and all this stuff. Even when they're that small, you can be talking to them about price per unit, price per ounce, what we're spending. Should we spend more or should we spend less? Well, we should spend less. Why? Because then we have more left over to go to Chuck E. Cheese, to go get pizza, to do things that we love to do. So you can start talking about those concepts very early. And when they're 4 or 5, they can start to read, a $4 is less than $6. Should we pay $4 or $6? So you involve them in the process. When our kids were coming up, and what I've taught for many years in MOPS and moms programs and parenting programs is involve your kids even in the bills. Like, oh, that's private. It's really not. Like utilities bills. We talked a few minutes ago about conservation.
Yeah.
Well, if you start pulling out the bills and you have a little meeting around the dining room table, kitchen table, and you pull out the bill, what's nice about utilities bills is they show you what you spent right now, what you spent last month, and what you spent last year. And sometimes there's even graphs and all kinds of neat charts there. And you can talk about the value of spending less and the value of saving more. And if you show them that, think about how you learned all that. It was probably hard knocks. Not
Yeah.
every parent thinks to sit down and share the daily finances and the daily expenses and the daily money parts with their kids. What do they tell us as children? They say, save your money, put it in the piggy bank, put it in the bank. Well, how does that help me manage? I need to know how to spend well, not just save well. How do I spend it? How do I allocate money as it goes out? That's the art. It's a science, but it's an art. And that's one that we usually learn the hard way. You go to college, you walk down the quad, and everybody's trying to get you to sign up for credit cards. And a lot of us did. And we got a free beach towel or a free candy bar for doing it. And then pretty soon it's like, wow, I have to pay that back now. How am I going to do that? Right. And then you learn, that's debt I have to pay. And now that sweater that I bought isn't $20, it's $40 because I paid back over time. So things like that, you can tell your children when they're 2 and 3 and 4 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 12 and 14. By teen years, they'll understand a basic portfolio of stocks, bonds, mutual funds. Watch the stuff that we have up online. It's free. And you can learn how that works. Educate yourself if you're not already working that way, if you don't have a background in that, but learn with your kids. And then by the time they're in high school and college, they're going to have their expenses down. They're going to have their spending plan. I try not to use the B word, budget, right? Sounds like diet. It's what we can't have. It's a spending plan. And it's a joy when you have the dollars to put them in the right place and plan and allocate where it's going to go. And always pay yourself. You should pay, I believe you should pay a tithe. I think you should pay your taxes. I think you should pay yourself. You should pay yourself for your future goals and for your future long term. And always make sure that with all the bills that you have to allocate money to, you are at the top of that list.
Excellent. And I knew that at some point for our show, there's a lot of questions that are still we want to ask, right? And I have a list of questions too, but I want to make sure that because of our limited time, we're basically covering a lot of our personal finances and different things like that. So folks, Those that have asked questions about business, I promise you we will cover it in another edition where we're just going to answer questions related to business. But with that said, we were talking about money, how to handle money, obviously planning and all of that as well too. So something that always keeps coming up is also, and again, I don't know what age group, but it applies to everyone. It says, I don't have a trust. Why is it important? Why should I have a trust versus a will? And I know that's come up a few times before too.
Yeah. Well, the simple answer is what a trust will do is allow you to pass assets to your family members or the causes that you care about without using the supervision of the court. If you have a will, you're going to be using the court. And for most people, they don't like the idea of the probate process. That's the process that takes care of people that aren't able to take care of themselves, and it handles the distribution of an estate to people once they pass. And so a lot of people don't like the idea of probate because they say it takes too long and it costs too much and it's a big hassle. And for the most part, I would agree. If there's a way for you to name someone that can act for you to handle your estate and distribute, pay the bills and then distribute to your heirs or the people that you choose without using the court, way better on the family, way better on the costs, way better on the hassle factor. And you don't have attorneys involved or judges involved overseeing all that stuff. You get to say, instead of the state you live in saying what's going to happen, you get to say. So for a lot of people, if they have minor children, if they have a blended family, particularly, if they own property or if they have substantial assets, and over 100,000 or so, it probably would be cost wise to have a trust rather than a will. That's probably when most people think about it. If you want simplicity, if you want streamlining, that process of death and incapacity, that's probably a big deal for some people. Then a trust would probably be better than a will. But it's kind of a personal thing. And then you have to weigh the hassle of setting those up, right? A trust is going to cost a little more than a will. It's going to be a little more involved. The choices you're making, the decisions, the provisions that you put together in your trust, it's a contract. So you're going to create a contract. A will, you pretty much say, here's who's going to get my stuff, right? So that's probably what I'd have to say about that. It's always worth looking at if you have kids, if you own property, for sure.
Excellent. And don't put it off, folks. I know that there's a lot of folks that tune in to the show. I will tell you, I was guilty at one point or another, also the same thing. I just, when I get around to it. And my parents were very adamant about, you need to have this in place, especially if you're going to, start a family and all of that stuff too. It needs to be in place. But, when we're young, we think we know everything. We got plenty of time, right? So it's like, okay, I'll get around to it, whatever. But very important, folks, make sure that you are taking notes, make sure that you are reaching to someone else to make sure you plan ahead for your future, because you never know, right? And speaking of never know, Route, now it's that time of our show, which I love, and it is. All right, Judy, tell us what you got today. What do you got for a challenge?
All right, if you're up for a challenge, here's your challenge. Get your pen, get your paper. You've always got to write it down. If I'm in the room, you are writing things down. There's something magical about the head, through the arm, down to the hand, through the pen to the paper. I don't know what it is, but it's magical. I think it just makes things happen. I don't know why, but okay. So here is your challenge. The first thing is to consider one area of your finances, whether it's estate planning, like a trust or a will, whether it's insurances, maybe something that we talked about today triggered, I should probably make sure I have the right kind of insurance or look into that, the health insurance, auto insurance, liability insurance for your business, life insurance, all of those. Maybe there's something there that I've kind of put off, and now I am triggered to get it on my list and take care of something, right? So whatever area it is, write down that area. The second thing is, what is it specifically that you can do to make progress in that area? Do I need to call an agent? Do I need to get a hold of an attorney? Do I need to go dig through the file cabinet and find that document, find those papers? What do I need to do specifically to make progress in the area that I have appointed? And the third thing is do something by Sunday night at 5 o'clock. like either during the week, after work one night, early in the morning, on the weekend, something. By 5 o'clock on Sunday, make progress in this area. You would have made that call. You would have opened the file cabinet and looked for that thing. You will make some progress. So it's not just an idea. It's not just, a good thought. It's something where you're actually making progress. I encourage you to actually move the ball down the field. So there's your challenge.
Awesome. And you remember Money Truth Challenge, folks. So make sure you share some of this with us as well, too. And we are here at the end of our show. We appreciate you guys joining us. If you're just joining us now, please make sure you watch the beginning of the show. We have answered a lot of personal questions from our audience as well. So make sure you really tune in and also share this with folks, too. And if you're not following Judy, please do so at judycopenbarger.com. We discussed how many great resources are available on our website, including following her on social media as well, too. So Judy, any last words?
Oh, just make it a great week.
Awesome. And remember, folks, we're here every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. And we'll see you guys next week. Until then, take care.
Bye-bye.